The Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz. My good friend, Dr. Ron McNitch, is my in-studio guest again this evening. Thank you, Doc, for taking 3 weeks out of your time to be with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tonight, I want to talk about elections. We're in election year 2016, locally, nationally.
Sure.
I'll be surprised if you haven't taken any polls at this point, issues and all that. But anyway. 2016, how's it looking like in our local side, local elections? It's not a gubernatorial election; it's a senatorial election, as well as a mayoral election, and all the other boards and I guess boards that are going to be up for election. So, what does it look like for 2016?
Sure.
Guam style.
In general, we have 15 senators coming up. In all else equal, at least 12 of the 15 will be reelected. You know, that's the general trend. We might switch 2 to 3. Most of them will be reelected, and so I don't see really a lot of change happening in the legislature. I don't see a lot of shuffling around going on. The pay issue was a false concern. People weren't as angry about the pay issue as some people wanted the senators to think that it was. It wasn't that big of an issue at all. People are far more concerned about other important policy issues like education, healthcare, and the economy.
But let me ask you, Doc, because the pay issue. Now, if you go back to November, public hearing on again rolling back the pay raises, you know, it didn't get anywhere in the sense they voted it down. It didn't go anywhere. Recently, a few weeks ago, of course, they passed the bill in regards to well, we didn't realize, now we realize. You know, and I'm thinking, well, as soon as 2016 came about, so when you're saying it's not really a big issue, but they seem to think it's a big issue because now you had some transformations in regards to a change of stance, because they're saying, we didn't realize we were in this economic situation. We just did. When the administration came to us and said there's a shortfall based on of lump sum payment paid to the 13 million to the retirees. So here again, it's like election year. You have a couple changes. It passed, and so obviously some are thinking on re-election, and how they're not be able to remove themselves from that.
Sure. I think, though, that, how can I say it? The pay issue exists only if they believe it exists. And what I mean by that is we can go back 20 years, and let's find a year when people are not dissatisfied about where money is spent or how it's spent, or views that people feel that we don't have enough money or that we're not apportioning money correctly. And there are all these disputes that related to that. My point for that is it doesn't matter the year. There's always going to be the issue that we're not spending money the way we should be spending money. Politics is about who gets what, when, and how. And there's no better political issue than a pay issue, because it deals with who in the legislature or executive branch gets the amount of money for doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think, though, that this is a non-issue politically. I don't think that the public really cares about the issue from all indications. I don't think that, and particularly relative to other important issues, the public would wish that our leaders would concentrate on, that they're not doing because of this pay issue and this very small number of very vocal people who want to make a public issue out of it.
Now, Doc, this is midterm basically here. This is again for the legislature and mayoral, but you have a new, I think is a new Democratic chairman. I think Keen Paris is the new Democratic chair for the Democratic Party, of course. Now, as a midterm election, they're going to gear up to get ready for 2 years from now, the gubernatorial election. They're going to try to get as many. If they try to retain the majority in the legislature, if not get a super majority, maintain what they have at this point. they're going to try to get back the mayoral seats because the majority of the mayors at this point in Guam are Republicans. So they're going to try to do that to be able to, again, get control of Adelup, which the Democrats haven't had control of in, what, 16 years, right?
Sure.
So would be 16 years at the time. What do both parties have to do again what do the Republicans need to do to try to gain the majority in the legislature and retain Adelup? What does the Democrat have to do to retain his majority and likewise, try to get into Adelup?
Sure. There's a thing in my field of public administration, we call it functionalism. It's almost doing like math. And if you look at the majority in the Guam legislature, the Democrat majority in the Guam legislature is largely a function of 16 years of Republican governors. Because what happens is all of the talent is drawn into the Republican administration, and then everybody who's a Democrat who feels they have talent have nowhere to go except get elected to the legislature. And they don't want to, God forbid, become a mayor because that works too hard. So they want political jobs in the legislature because it's a fairly easy job and it's a high status job and there's not a lot of hard work attached to it. And so we have a Democrat legislature because we have had Republican governors for so long, and we're going to probably, all else equal, if things pan out the way they look like they're going to pan out, the next majority is going to be a Democrat legislature also. In order for the Republicans to make a dent in the legislature, it may sound counterintuitive, but the technique is very, very simple. You just hire more Democrats into elite Adelup jobs, which then pulls the talent base away from the Democrats and ties them up just as the Republicans are tied up, and that makes the legislature more competitive.
But let me ask you this. That being said, because I know quite a few, actually some of them were my former staff who were Democrats who are now working in the administration, and they didn't change to Republican. They're still Democrats. Now, of course, after the Calverton administration, wouldn't some of them be courted back by, because you have, again, the established Democrats. Keen Paris is an established Democrat. And so Berdaliocrat, okay? Wouldn't that establishment, and again, most of the people that I know that work for the administration were Berdaliocrats as well. Now, wouldn't that establishment try to bring them back home to come back home? We'll welcome you with open arms. I mean, look at Mike Phillips. He'll never admit he's changed. He's always a Democrat, but man, he's doing more for the Republican administration than he did for a Democrat administration. So they'll go back home, would you think?
Well, there is a key distinction, though, that's very, very important to make. There are Democrat and Republican bureaucrats who do very critical technical or support roles that are merit-based. It's almost because they have these skills, they're in these positions. You don't find unskilled Democrats and Republicans doing technical jobs in our government. What this means, though, I guess the people I'm talking about that the Republicans kind of sort of need to raid are the ones that are in political office just because they're politicians and they don't have any other skills. So in order to shake the Democrats out of the legislative majority, you actually have to raid people from the legislature who really don't have any skills, and you don't want them anyway to pull them into the administration. And that's a hard thing to do, obviously. And by the way, there's unskilled Republicans and Democrats. I'm not just bashing
you're making us feel real confident in our government there, Doc.
But that's how government is. In fact, most politicians, particularly in the legislature, rely almost solely and exclusively on their staff. And their staff are very competent. And the ones who get elected often, get elected because they're nice people. And that's about it. I mean, there's, and I don't mean to sound overly critical, but if I'll tell you, the governor's side is entirely different. It's a tough, technical job, and you got to have technical skills to be governor. But the the legislative side, it's a little bit more fuzzy-wuzzy in terms of who it takes and what it takes
Well,
to get the
you know,
job.
now you got me. Now you're.
And no
you're-
offense, by the way.
No,
Senator.
now you're having me change the definition of what an unskilled worker is. Now, as an unskilled worker, I used to be an unskilled worker. Be right back.